Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Jason with Art of Creation Homestead, and today we're going to talk to you about something that we love to do here. It's outstanding use for some garden scraps. You know, the little things that maybe you got some of this left over, some of that left over, something you can't really use, or maybe something didn't do that great for you, but you got a little bit of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to pressure can some vegetable soup. All right.
This is basically a garden scraps recipe. The things that you wouldn't normally use for anything or that you think is pointless, like fasciated tomatoes, things like that, it can all go in this. All of your garden scraps, this is the perfect recipe for that. Okay, so we have, I know this is more than 12, but you want 8 cups of peeled chopped tomatoes. Peeled, cored, and chopped tomatoes. As you can see, I'm using the gnarlies, and that's perfect for this. Yours that's a little overripe, perfect for this preparation. We have corn.
Our corn didn't do anything this year, if you saw any of our videos before, so we went to a local source and bought some really good corn. No shame. No shame in that. It happens. Don't worry about it.
This is 9 ears. You will want to cut it off the cob, of course. You want celery, as much as you like. If you don't like celery, don't put it in. These are leftover carrots that we had from our harvest.
Carrot store forever. We harvested these earlier in the year. We'll put a video up here to show you that harvest if you'd like to see it. And this is what's left over from it, and they store well. We're going to go in there.
The little nubbers of onions, the ones that didn't grow the big beautiful slicers, that's what I'm using. It's the little nubbers, leftovers. Okay, when you can beans,
or fix them whole, fix them fresh,
or fix them fresh, and you have that little bit extra that won't fit in a jar or whatever, that you're like, okay, what do I do with these? And you try to shove them into a jar and you put a pint in there. You don't need to do that. Put them in the freezer.
Or if you just had a couple handfuls that you harvested, that was all you had harvested.
Yes, put them in the freezer.
Yep.
Use them for this. This was a little extra that we had. Use them for this.
Yep.
And here's the big thing. Everybody gets these little nubbers of potatoes when they grow potatoes. Everybody gets them. Most people don't know what to do with them, so they don't do anything with them. This is the perfect use. The skin is so tender and so young, you just need to wash them up, and you can cut them in half or throw them in whole. Perfect use for all these little nubbers.
Clean them up, cut them in half.
For these little guys, it's the perfect use for all of these.
They're tasty.
They're so tender and tasty, and they're perfect in this soup.
Yep.
You can also put in anything that you like, any scraps that you have. Peas work great in it. Okra, any scraps that you have around the yard, any garden scraps will work great in this soup. Anything you like in vegetable soup. If you don't have this stuff or don't have access to this and you want the canned vegetable soup, use frozen mixed vegetables.
Absolutely.
Nobody's shaming you here.
We bought this at Whole Foods. I mean, see, it didn't come out of the ground with this little band on it. We bought it at Whole Foods. Big deal.
There's no shame in it. Use what you can find. And I promise you, this soup is amazing. On a cold winter day, open up a can of this, put whatever your favorite meat is in it. It will go good with any meat at all or no meat at all.
Alright, so we're going to take this and we're going to clean these up, alright? We're not going to bore you with the idea of us cleaning these up and getting them and prepping them ready to go. And we'll come back to you in a little bit.
We finally have all of our vegetables cut up and ready to go. As you can see in here, we have celery. We have our celery, our beautiful carrots, green beans, corn, onions. Over here we have our potatoes. And I'm not giving you measurements here because the only thing I'm going to give you measurements on is the tomatoes. Because these are what makes your juice. These are what makes the brothy base for your soup. So you need, this is 8 cups, 8 generous cups, really truly about 8.5 cups of peeled, cored, and roughly chopped tomatoes. Everything else that's in here, you can put anything you want in here and as much as you want. If you like more corn, put more corn. If you want peas, put peas. If you like more beans, put beans. If you like more potatoes, put more potatoes. This is entirely up to you. Just make sure you have more tomatoes than anything else. So we're gonna dump everything in here. You need a big pot for this. You need a great big pot for this. Woo! See? Now we're gonna stir it all up. And it will shrink down once you start cooking it a little and the tomatoes start to break down, because basically you don't want to cook this till it's done, because otherwise when you can it's going to get very mushy. What you want to do is you want to bring it to a boil, and you just want to let it cook for about 15 minutes so that your tomatoes can break down and you can start to form your juice and your broth, because you need that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add 6 cups of water to this to help it out in the juice station. So we're going to take this over to the stove and add 6 cups of water. I've added the 6 cups of water. As you can see, it's a full pot and all that goodness. Now what you're going to want to do here, you're going to want to salt it the way you want it. I'm going to add some salt now, and then you want to taste the broth and see how salty it is and get it seasoned the way you like it. You can add pepper here, and you can can it just fine with pepper in it. I personally don't add pepper until I open the jars and heat it, because when you process this in the pressure canner, it is going to intensify that pepperiness. So I personally wait until I open the jars and heat it to
till
add
we're going to eat it. Make sure till we're going to eat it.
Yes.
Not just opening up jars to eat the jars or whatever. Till we actually going to eat it.
Till we're going to eat it.
Right.
Okay. So now I'm going to add some salt.
Now, do you want to salt it? Do you want to taste it after it's cooked some though?
Yes.
Okay. Wait till after it's cooked some.
Now this is not. You're not going to cook it till it's done.
No, but you'll need to do it after it's cooked for a little while, because then you'll get a better idea of the flavor,
yes.
right? Okay.
And the juice will start to come out of your tomatoes and stuff like that, and because that's what you want to taste is your broth, your juice. So I added about a tablespoon of salt there for all of this. Now if you're adding more potatoes than I added probably about 3.5 cups of potatoes. If you add more potatoes than that, you will want to add more salt, because potatoes absorb salt like you would not believe. So now what we're going to do, we're going to turn this on medium high, bring it to a boil, bring it to a good boil, then you'll turn the heat back to medium low, which will be about a 3. If you have numbers, it'll be about a 3. Turn it to about medium low and have a gentle bubble for 15 minutes. Now that's not enough time to cook anything. You just want to bring out the juice, break down your tomatoes, bring out the juice, and start par cooking things. But you do not want to cook it completely. Now this has come to a boil, and I reduced the heat and let it do a gentle boil for 15 minutes, and as you can see, the tomatoes are broke down. It's nice and brothy, and it actually looks like a soup now, but it's not by far done. Everything's a little bit par cooked, but not much. Mostly all you wanted was those tomatoes to break down and everything to get nice and hot. So now there's some very important steps that I'm going to have to teach you about jarring this up, because this is going to be pressure canned. Now this is very important. Hear every word of this. I know this is a tomato, there's a lot of tomato in here. It's mostly tomato based, and I know you can add citric acid or lemon juice to a tomato base and make it safe to water bath can. This is not water bath canner safe. Do not water bath can this soup, because nothing in here but the tomatoes is water bath friendly. The potatoes, the corn, the beans, none of that is water bath friendly. You can get botulism and die that way. Do not water bath can this. I don't care if you add so much lemon juice or citric acid that you pucker. It's not going to be water bath friendly. This has to be pressure canned. So because this is pressure canned, you want an inch headspace, which headspace is the space between the food and the top of the jar. Ball does a wonderful thing for you here. This little lip right here below that little lip, you can see a seam there. That seam is 1 inch. So fill it to that point. Anytime you are pressure canning, you want to fill it to that point. So now, the way you want to do this is, there's several ways that you can make sure that this is right. This is the way I'm going to teach you. You want to get a perfect amount of vegetables and broth in your jars. You don't want too many vegetables and hardly any broth, or it's not going to pressure can right. So you want to make sure before you start scooping it up, give it a good stir. That way all your vegetables are not at the bottom and your broth is not at the top. That way you get a good scoop every time. If you're afraid that that can't happen, then take a slotted spoon and dip off your vegetables and fill your jar about half full of vegetables and then top it off with the juice. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to give it a good stir. That way everything's all mixed together. And now I'm going to take my mug, as you guys know, I use the drip station, and then I use a mug to pour it in. So, see, there's a nice mix of both. Now I'm going to pour it into the jar. And see, there's a nice mix of both in there. And this is so gorgeous once it's jarred up. See, there's an inch headspace. Now you want to debubble it. For sure, you want to debubble this. So now we'll take our debubbling tool and we'll mix it around. Get all those bubbles to come up. And now sometimes you will have to add a little bit more, but I think that's still perfect.
There you go.
So now you want to take a damp towel or a damp rag, wipe your rim. Make sure there is no food debris around it. Now you're going to take a lid. It doesn't have to be hot for this because you are pressure canning. It just has to be very clean. And now we're going to take a ring, put your ring on, and you're just going to put that just finger tight, just like you do with any canning. You're going to put that just finger tight, and we're going to keep filling our jars. Okay, I've got my pressure canner out. I have put 3 quarts of warm water in it. Now I just measure it in a quart jar, 3 of those. Now your canner may be a different amount. Go by what your canner tells you, how many quarts of water you put in your canner. Sometimes they'll even have a line showing you where the water level needs to be to. It's very important that you follow those instructions exact. You need the exact amount of water that they are telling you. Now, this is an old canner's trick. Whenever you're canning, water bath or pressure, pour in about 2 good splashes of white vinegar, and it will keep your jars from discoloring and turning white and having the white water sediment on it. So now we're going to load it up. Okay, we have all 7 jars in here. Now, if you're a first-time pressure canner, this process may be a little scary for you, because if you're using quarts, this has to process for 85 minutes. And I was scared the first time I did it. But if you follow all of these precautions, it's going to be a completely safe can. You don't have to worry about it. Now these precautions I'm telling you is over here on the lid. Make sure this ring is free of debris and that it's set completely under these lips. It has to be set completely under there, on there secure. Make sure your little plug is completely secure in place there. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, but this is very important. See this little thing right here? It leads to this on the other side, which is where your steam comes from. You want to hold this up to a light source. And you want to be able to see light through that. If you don't, then you need to clean it out. So you need to hold it up, and if you can see light through it.
You can see light, that's pretty cool.
Then you're clear and you're ready to go. So now, over here, this is the Presto pressure canner. You can get several different brands. This is Presto. With a Presto, you have an arrow here on your handle, and you have an arrow here on your lid. You want them to match. Now you turn it to close. Now it's closed. So what you're going to do now, you're going to turn on your heat. I usually turn it on about medium high. And you're going to want this to start. And what you're looking for at this point is you're looking for steam to start coming. A steady stream of steam will start coming from this little thing. You want that steam to come from it for 10 minutes. That is releasing all of the air from the inside of the canner and from the inside of your jars. It's very important. Do not skip this step. It is critical for an airtight seal. Now you see, at least I hope you can see, there is a steady stream of steam coming out of your vent. You want that to blow the steam out for 10 minutes. Do not skip this step. It's very important. Now, while this is going for 10 minutes, I'm going to tell you, this is a number gauge. Now, in most regions, this will need to be canned at 10 pounds pressure, which is right there. It depends on your altitude. Your canning book, your book that comes with your canner, will tell you the altitude and what pounds pressure you will need to can it at. And you can Google what altitude your particular city is. Google will always tell you. So this will tell you. But one thing about this, every year that you use a pressure canner, this is going to get off calibration. So it may not be accurate. So you can either take this to your county extension once a year and before canning season and have it recalibrated, or you can get this beautiful little device, which is a weighted gauge. And see, it has rings, and each one of these rings is a weight. If you do it just like this, it's 5 pounds pressure. If you add one ring, that's 10 pounds pressure. If you add your other ring, it's 15 pounds pressure. So we only need one ring, because for our altitude, it's 10 pounds. So once this has blown all of the steam out for 10 minutes, you are going to put this over the hole. You are going to set it right on top of the hole. And then this little pin right here, see, this little pin, I'll wipe the water off of it so you can see it good. That little pin that says top, it's going to pop up. And that's going to signal it to start building pressure. And this is also a lid lock. When that pops up, it locks your lid in place, that this lid cannot come off until that gauge has went back down. So as you can see, the button has popped and pressure is starting to build. And we have put the little gauge on so that pressure can build. And as you can hear, when I move it around, you can hear it. You can hear it starting to build. So now, we're going to wait until this gets to 10 pounds pressure. You will know it's at 10 pounds pressure with the weighted gauge, because it will start to gently rock like this and release pressure. That way it doesn't get to too much pressure. It will release all the excess pressure. As you can see, it's rocking gently. It's not rocking too violently. You don't want it to rock violently. You want it to rock gently. And this means that we're at pressure, which, as you can tell, my gauge is already off. It's only showing 9 pounds pressure, but this is already jiggling, so this is telling you it's 10 pounds pressure. This is why this is a very important element. So you're going to let this go for 85 minutes because I'm doing quarts. If you are doing pints, you want to let it go for 55 minutes. Now, if you're pressure canning for the first time, or all you've done is beans or something that just takes a few minutes, this 85 minutes may scare you. But don't let it scare you. This is not your granny's pressure canner that's going to blow the lid off. We've all heard those horror stories.
Yeah, I've seen it.
This is not your granny's pressure canner. This has so many safety features. What's going to happen if something goes wrong is this little button back here. This little rubber pin is going to blow out of it. And all the pressure, all the steam is going to go rushing out. And the lid isn't going to blow off. Nothing else is going to blow off. That's going to pop, and all the steam's going to go out. And that's all that's going to happen. Most people have an Instant Pot right now. If you are not afraid of your Instant Pot, don't be afraid of this. This is just basically an Instant Pot that can get more pressure. It's been 85 minutes. The timer has went off. We've turned it off. And we've removed it from the heat. That's very important. When your time is up, you need to remove it from the heat so that the pressure can come down.
Slowly.
Slowly come down. Do not take this off.
Slowly remove it from the heat. It's very heavy.
It's heavy and it's extremely hot. Be very careful. Pick it up evenly and gently and slowly move it off the heat. Do not juggle it around a lot. Do not jiggle it around. Do not slosh things around inside of it. Be very consistent and walk very cautiously and carefully.
Or it'll blow up! Boom!
No, it won't blow up. Now, we're waiting for the pressure to go down. Now the pressure will go all the way down to 0 on the gauge, but this pin will probably still be up. The pressure is not off until this pin has dropped. Now when the pin drops, the pressure has gone off, and you will take this gauge off and leave it sit for 5 minutes with that gauge off. Then we'll be back and show you what's next. The pin is dropped now, and I've took off the gauge so that any remaining pressure, which there shouldn't be any, but in case there is any remaining pressure or steam, that it can come out the vent. It's been like that for a few minutes, and it's starting to cool down a little. Now we're going to open it and see what's there. Hopefully it'll be a good thing. I'm just kidding. I know it'll be a good thing. I've done this before. Turn it away so that it unlocks. And remember to hold it away from you so that the steam does not come up into your face, because that's going to burn bad.
Ooh, steamy. Gotcha. Look at there.
Okay. Now we'll get our handy dandy jar lifters and we'll take out this beautiful soup. Okay. Now we're getting the jars out of the canner. It's a little harder because they're tight. Remember, just like with water bath canning, raise straight up, take straight over. Now you don't have to wipe any water away because there's no water there. The water was not covering them. So raise straight up, take straight over. When you have a canner full, it gets a little tight to get your jar lifters in there. Now you'll see that there is some deposits on top of the flats. You can wash that away tomorrow with a little vinegar and water, a little white vinegar and water. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? Okay. Now you want to leave these sit for 18 to 24 hours before you mess with them, because as you can see, where they have processed for so long, they are still bubbling inside the jars. So you can still see the bubbles. they are still essentially cooking sitting right here. So you do not want to mess with them. You do not want to touch them for 18 to 24 hours.